when you start to see the progression, that's when it's like addicting. Transformation is addicting. So when you see progress, you see transformation, and this picks up the momentum.
Today's guest is a true powerhouse in the world of beauty, business, and bold leadership. Danielle K White is the founder of Natural Beaded Rose, Hair Extensions, and Isla Hand Tied Hair, two industry leading brands trusted by top artists across the country. She's not only a salon owner and educator, but a visionary entrepreneur who's built a movement helping hairstylists master the business, marketing, and mindset it takes to scale with confidence. But Danielle's impact goes far beyond the salon chair. She's a devoted wife to Garrett J. White, creator of Wake Up Warrior, a mom of four who's built a life and brand rooted in purpose, power, and personal growth. Whether she's teaching on stage, coaching behind the mic, or leading her team, Danielle is all about helping others create a life and business they truly love. Danielle, welcome to the Slayer Day Show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I had you on my show, like, what, a couple weeks ago. It actually went live today.
Yes, yes.
It was
That
fun.
was so much fun. And I love just, talking to women about how they juggle it all. Obviously, Slayer Day has many different meanings, but I think that when we hear from other women who are in the thick of it, who are in mom life and work life, and really like even the self-care part of it, it's so, to me, it's inspiring when I hear other women and like their hacks or tricks or what they're doing, or even sometimes when it's really hard because you don't feel so alone.
Yes, exactly. I always joke around with my husband. Like, we went on vacation a couple weeks ago. I'm like, do you know how hard like pregame is before a vacation? Like, you've got to get the tan, you've got to get the eyelashes, plus you have to pack all the kids. Like,
Right.
it's like a 2 day event just to go on a vacation.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I feel that so much. We do so much traveling. I mean, just in general, I feel like, but my husband, like, he takes care of his stuff, and then it's like mom's the one in charge of her stuff, the kids' stuff, like the on plane stuff. I mean, my kids are still little. Well, you have little ones and big ones.
Yeah, toddlers and teenagers. I wouldn't recommend it. 18 to 3 right now.
So you're like in every stage.
Yes, all at once,
Wow.
all at once.
Wow.
It's
Okay, so you are the perfect woman for me to ask this question to because you are in the range with like the babies
fun.
and the teenagers and the business and the marriage. So how do you juggle it all and make it all work? Being a mom, being a wife and a business owner, like how do you and your husband, like what does that dynamic look like for you guys?
Well, for me and Garrett, like, one of the things that's important for us is going out on weekly dates. We usually actually go out twice a week, but it's funny because we have toddlers. It's like date night for us is just dinner without kids,
Yeah.
right? So, like, if your kids are older, you can go out to dinner any night of the week and call that date night. But for
Mm,
us, like, we have to get a nanny or somebody to help and go have dinner. So that's just to have like a conversation. Like
right.
like yesterday, I was laughing so hard because my nanny wasn't here. I didn't have a nanny all day, and he got home, and I looked like I was like
I
melting.
saw I saw your Instagram story.
And he was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was like, "No, it's." I was like, "When I don't have help all day, I mean that sounds bad, but like we had the teenagers and the toddlers and everybody in the kitchen, and like I can't even get a word in with my husband.
Yeah.
For us, like to have like like to not feel like roommates because we've been in that
Mhm.
phase with our first two kids. Honestly, like the first 7 8 years of our marriage, we were just surviving on fumes and being roommates, and then we actually lost everything back in 2000. Well, it was like 15 years ago when the market crashed, and
Yeah.
that's when I didn't even know if I was going to stay married. I was like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, like it really exposed us for what our relationship was.
Mhm.
And that's actually when I started my brand. So it's interesting to go
Wow.
back to your question when people are like, how do you do it all in seasons and in
Yep.
days? And you don't do it all. You don't like see people see the success that you have and the success that I have. And they're just like, I don't think I could do that. You're like, no, you can't do that in one day. Like,
Right.
it's overwhelming, but you have to, I always say, you have to kind of start with where you're at. So
Yeah.
for me, like I said, I started my brand 15 years ago because I'm like, I need to make some money for my family. And the skill that I had in front of me was doing hair, right?
Yeah.
I never planned on it taking me to where it has today. To be honest with you, I just wanted to be a mom. Like, I was like, hair's a hobby for me. I don't
Yeah.
have a desire to build this huge empire. Like, I just want to be a kept wife. And life doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's and now that I feel like I've gone through the gamut of building a business. for me, balance is like prioritizing where the fire needs to be put out. Like there's
Right.
no really no such thing as balance. So when people are like, how
Yeah.
do you do it all? It's like, well, what season are you in?
Yes.
Do you have teenagers and like they can kind of do their own thing? Cool. Then you can focus maybe a little bit more on your marriage or whatever your passion or your purpose or your business is. I'm not even saying you have to
Mhm.
be a working mom, but I think it's so important for women to have a purpose outside of their children. So, like I
Yeah.
said, I don't care what that looks like for you, because if you don't, you become too reliant on your children and your husband and you lose your identity. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like, like I said, if your kids are older, maybe kind of figure out what your passion and purpose is, and that's your season you're in. If you're in the toddler season like you are too, it's a shit show.
Yeah.
Like it is a shit show. Like let's be real. Like
Yeah.
power to moms building businesses with toddlers. Like it's
Yes.
just wild, because you don't want to miss out on that time because they're so
Yeah.
freaking cute. But
Yeah.
also like you've got to schedule your working time. Like you really have to
Mhm.
be like, okay, how do I balance it with the toddlers? I know exactly what my week looks like every single week, where I'm going to like have time with the kids and where I'm going to have time with the business. And
Yeah.
I used to have like a really hard time doing that. Like I felt like I had to be with my kids all the time. And it's funny because even women that are maybe not working or they're kind of full-time moms, like it's really hard to be with your kids like and be present,
Mhm.
So to answer your question, I don't do it all. I just do it daily. I stay
Yeah.
consistent and I put out the fire where the fire needs to be put out.
Burnout doesn't take a summer break. Between road trips, long days in the sun, and everyone's schedules exploding, your body takes the hit. Soursop gummies are your daily defense, fueled by over 200 active compounds to boost energy, strengthen immunity, reduce inflammation, and calm your stress. This is a mom's must-have for the summertime. Sugar-free, non-GMO, and low-carb, Soursop gummies are created by a team that truly cares about helping you heal naturally and holistically. Bundle and save today. Your family's summer strength starts here. Head over to the link in the description or soursopnutrition.com/Sandy. And make sure to use code Sandy20 for 20% off your entire order. Tap the link to start your best summer ever. Yeah, I feel like that's such a breath of fresh air for all the women listening. Because if I can think back to when I was really like in the thick of it, when I was breastfeeding and the babies were little, there were some days when I was like, am I even going to make it to the end of the day? Because you're so overwhelmed and you're so touched out and you're just so like, you almost like can't come up for air. So I
Yeah.
feel like the women that are in that stage right now, looking back, because like my babies now are 5 and 7, I'm like, wow, like when I was in it, it felt like I was drowning and it was impossible. And was I even going to make it to the end of the day? And now I look back and I'm like, it actually went by faster now that I'm here
Yeah.
than if I was actually looking at where I was in that season,
Right.
just because I think exactly what you said, honoring those seasons is so important. And I know we hear this all the time, like you never get that time back, or
Mhm.
like, cherish it while, you're in it now. But sometimes it's really stinking hard to do that.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting too, because like I had my two kids, I had an 8 year gap. In that 8 year gap was when I was kind of building my business, and it started to blow up and pick up a lot of speed. And then I had my third daughter, and I actually had like a health scare.
Oh,
I developed
wow.
a DVT in my leg. I gained like 70 pounds. I had like preeclampsia. It was like super scary. And so then I
Wow.
kind of put my foot on the brakes with my company. And
Yeah.
I just kind of was like, I need to be with my kids. I need to work with
Mhm.
I need to get my health back in check. And then that's actually when I got into fitness competitions,
Wow.
because I gained all this weight and people are like, oh, you're getting older. And like, it's okay
Oh,
I'm like, I don't accept that story. Like,
right.
maybe I almost want to like challenge myself even more.
Yeah.
That's when I hired a nutritionist and started looking into bodybuilding, things like that. And it scared the crap out of me. But after having kind of like that health scare and having a little more free time, because I sort of put the pump on my brakes on my
Mhm.
business, I got into fitness. And then I found out my fourth baby was a surprise. I was literally doing my second bikini competition, and I was like, I feel pregnant, like a week.
Oh my God.
And I was like, there's no way. Cause you know how I'm like, I'm super lean right now. There's no way I'm pregnant. I like
Yeah.
a week goes by after that competition. I'm like, "Ah, shit, I think I'm pregnant. I take like 10 tests. I come to my husband. I'm like, yeah, I'm pregnant. You're a jerk. Thank you so much. And he's like, oh, you're too hot. And I was like, great.
Oh my gosh. I feel like you hear that because I remember when I did my last competition and the makeup artists were like, like a lot of and even in pageantry, like the directors would tell you like, a lot of the women after they compete, like they end up pregnant. So it's so funny that you say that because, it's like you're looking good, you're feeling good, your hubby's like on you more.
Yeah, so that that's kind of where life took me, and then I kind of slowed down in my business. But interestingly enough, this last year, it's like now my two younger ones are 6 and 3, almost 4. So now I'm like, oh, I'm coming up for air. Like, I mean, it's
Right.
crazy, but it's not like the baby stage. It's not like the nursing stage. It's not like the
Yes.
crawling out of the crib stage. It's like, okay, she's not going to fall off a cliff and die. She's
Right.
I could leave her in a room to play. So then you have like you said, a little more air to breathe, and then it's like,
Mhm.
okay, now what's next in whether it's my purpose, my passion, like whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago that you have these like boundaries in place now. And I want to ask you what that looks like. Like, how do you protect that time, whether it's when you're focusing in on business or you're with your family? Like, do you have any like boundaries in place, or do you have anything that are you kind of like, I know that this is a hard yes, a hard no, like when I'm here I'm not there, like what do you do to protect kind of just like your sanity while you're also in that growth mode?
Right. Well, mine kind of goes back before I had my last two kids. When I started my brand, like I said, we had nothing, we lost everything, and so I had to put a lot of pressure on myself to kind of help become a producer for my
Hmm.
family because it was hard. I had to kind of like my husband like lost everything. He was in mortgages, and I was like, maybe I can help. Maybe I'm supposed to be the provider, right? And here I am thinking like, no
Mm,
way. And it was really good though because I went from like just thinking I'm a hairstylist to I'm now an entrepreneur, right? So I started to think of things a little bit differently, and one of the reasons or one of the things that helped me create boundaries is hairstylists don't work normal hours. Like they're
mhm.
nuts. Like they do not have boundaries at all. Like they say
Wow.
yes to every single service. And it's not like working at home where you can kind of see your kids and like dabble here and there. Like you're in the salon, you're away from your kids, you're working 10-hour days and you come home and you have
Mm.
nothing left to give.
Oh my
I
gosh.
remember like as I started to build momentum in my business, I was that person. Like I was taking a ton of clients. I dropped my kids off at school, go to the salon. By the time I got home, my kids were in bed. Like this is
Wow.
how it was. And so I definitely went through that phase of no boundaries and burnout because I was trying to hustle and help rebuild for my family. And I remember
Hmm.
one specific night coming home when, when you just hit that tipping point where you're like, enough
Yeah.
is enough. And you realize you're telling yourself these stories and you put yourself in this position and it's like a wake up call. And so I
Hmm.
remember like it was, like I said, it was after my two kids, I come home at the time I'm a one man show. Like I'm building
Yeah.
a brand, I'm doing all
Oh.
the marketing, I'm doing all the emails, I'm doing everything. So I'd come home from the salon, then I'd go work on my business. So I'd do my social media at the time. I did blogging. I'm doing all my content. I'm literally up
Mm.
at like it's like 11:30 at night. I
Oh
don't
my
even know
gosh.
where it is. Like I don't even know where he is. And I fall to the floor and I'm just sobbing. And I'm like,
Oh.
why? What am I doing? And at this point,
Hmm.
he created Wake Up Warrior, started to create a little bit of momentum too. So I didn't need to be hustling that hard.
Right.
I
Right.
lost myself. I lost my boundaries. And I remember just like sobbing and just thinking like, what am I doing? I'm being so selfish. I should quit
Mhm.
my purpose, my passion, my career, hair. Like I should just quit. I told myself this. And then I
Wow.
had this voice come tell me it would be selfish to quit.
Yes.
Whoa, why would I
Yes.
be selfish to quit? I literally I got this calm feeling. I picked myself up from the floor. I sat on my computer. I finished my emails or whatever I was doing, went to bed. The next morning, I woke up and I was like, shit, I have no boundaries. And I literally
Mm.
called, like, I was working Saturdays. I had clients flying into me at that time. I called
Wow.
every single Saturday client. I was like, I'm no longer working Saturdays. You'll have to reschedule your flight. I actually, that was when I let go of a ton of color clients. I doubled my prices. I literally like not lost, but I freed up like half of my time and
Yeah.
tripled my income in like 3 months. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my God, like boundaries is real, you know?
Yes.
I was like, even,
Yes.
and I'm like, oh, I'm a hairstylist. I can't charge that. I can't do this. And every industry has limiting beliefs or a ceiling on what
Mm-hmm.
they think they can do. And
Yep.
I was like, I'm not abiding by the hair norms or what they're telling me. Like, I'm not going to do that. So again, I was
Wow.
charging more than like anybody in my salon. Everyone's like, she's crazy. What is she doing? And I was like, I'm taking my time back and I'm creating better boundaries for myself.
That
And
is
that was
amazing. Okay, I have to ask you, like, how did you, first of all, how did that shift happen for you? Because I feel like a lot of times, of course, everyone's like, I want to get paid more, I want to work less. And this is what I teach my clients to do. But I think for someone that you were saying, like, when you're so used to being so, like, not having boundaries, I mean, obviously that moment was your tipping point. You were like, no more. But how did you even have the insight to say, like, no more, I'm not doing this, and like make that shift so fast?
I literally just think it was God telling me like like that's like I have so many moments in my life where I'm like, wow, God was just like comforting me or speaking through
Yeah.
me. And it was just like one of those moments where I was like, wow, like it was such an easy shift because it wasn't my shift. It was like God coming through me.
Yes.
And
Oh my
for
God. I'm
me,
getting goosebumps as you're saying it. Yes.
but it's like one of those things like we still struggle with it, right? Like
Yeah.
I'll feel the anxiety and the boundaries slipping and this and that. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
no, no, like I have to catch myself in it. And
Right.
so for me, it's like that's been something where if like I feel it kind of creeping up where I'm like, ooh, the mom guilt's creeping in, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit, I need to create more space to be with my kids and be more involved. And I'm in a place where I have no problem accepting help. Like
Hmm.
earlier, Danielle would like I had a hard time having a nanny or having help.
Right.
And now I have no problem. I actually went like the reverse way where like I told Garrett, it was like last year, I'm like, I don't need two nannies. Like, I want to be with my kids. Like, this is
Right.
like a control thing. Like, I want to be with my kids more. And I feel like because I have so much support, I
Hmm.
end up diving back into work, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, I
Right.
don't need to do that. And so right now, I'm like, I really like this. I was losing boundaries the other direction, right? I had too much
Yeah.
support. So it's always it's something that always for me and for women maybe listening to this show, I always say you can correct your boundaries by that little,
Hmm.
especially if you're mom, if you get a little bit of that mom guilt. You're like, wait, why is that creeping in?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
because maybe I need to spend more time with my kids, or I need to put more time into my work, or I need to put more time into my husband, you know, to kind of create that
Right.
balance.
Can we just talk about how bedtime used to be for us? Oh my gosh, you guys, I was hanging off one side of the bed. My kids were laying sideways across the entire bed. And my husband, he was literally falling off the bed. Don't even get me started on the stiff necks. We were actually at the chiropractor more than we were sleeping. We just thought that we had to deal with it until we found Alaskan King bed. Now we can actually co-sleep without the kids kicking us all night long. Everyone has plenty of space, and my husband finally stays in the bed. And we all wake up feeling refreshed, like we actually slept the whole night, because we did. If you're a growing family like us, this bed is a total game changer. More space equals more snuggles, less stress, and so much more quality time. And that was the true reason why we fell in love with this bed. Trust me, you will never go back. So head on over to AlaskanKingBeds.com and use code SANDY for a discount. Wishing you and your family sweet dreams from my family to yours. Make sure you head over to AlaskanKingBeds.com. Yes, yes. So you and I actually talked about this on your podcast. I was in the same position where I had two nannies. My in-laws are very close by, so they're such a huge help. I had a very, very strong support system. And then we went down to one, and now we're at none.
Mhm.
And I feel like, again, it just goes back to the seasons. I mean, we still have help with family, but at the end of the day, there is this like toggle of where you realize I need more or I need a little bit less. And you're kind of always reevaluating. So I think that's something to also recognize too, because it's never just smooth sailing
Right.
forever and ever till the end of time. It's like you're constantly having to just check in and say, like, how do I feel about this situation? Do I need more? Do I need less? And being okay to communicate what your needs are so you can adapt and change as needed.
Right, right. It is. It's all everything. Life works in seasons.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I want to ask you, go and dive in a little bit into the marketing side of your business. So I want to know how you kind of stay on top of your industry, stay inspired, and kind of like, because what you've created with your NBR, I've never heard of it or seen it before. We talked about this last time we were together. I want to go check it out and get it done. But from everyone that I've heard, I mean, I have friends who have had it done. This is something completely different
Yes.
in the industry. And we were talking about this before. I'd love for you to share like how you came up with this. What is it? Share with all the ladies.
So, like to answer your first question, like how do you stay on top of it with like your marketing? You're always solving a problem for your consumer, like period.
Hmm.
So, like when you can recognize a problem and you can create a solution, you're going to be ahead of the game, no matter what it
Yes.
is. So for me, I have really naturally really fine crappy hair. I always say I have like toddler hair; it's the worst. And right when I got into hair school, there wasn't a lot of options for learning hair extensions. So I went out and learned like everything I could. And I ended up kind of developing my own way of doing it that worked good on my hair, worked good on like my clients' hair. Prior to like making up my own method, I would mix like five different systems on one client. I'm like, oh, I'm customizing your extensions. And then I was like, this is way too much work. And so when we lost everything, that's when my husband was like, why don't you create a brand? I'm like, what are you talking about? Back then, everyone's got a brand now. Back then, it was like, you're either Vidal Sassoon or Paul Mitchell. Like, I was like a brand.
Right.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, no, you've created this really cool thing. You should create like a online course. So I feel like I was one of the first hairstylists who created a product. There was a lot of hairstylists that were starting to get like on YouTube and like that,
Hmm.
but they didn't have an actual product they were selling. Now, mind you, I was broke and I couldn't wait to get famous for someone to discover me. I had to sell something right
Right.
there. Like I'm like,
Right.
I need to make money. So that's kind of how I stayed ahead of it with the marketing. Is you have to like think what are people not currently doing. Back then nobody
Hmm.
was creating online courses and content, so I created this janky ass content. I like filmed it myself. I freaking YouTube and edited it by myself. I was like I'm not shipping this. I'm not putting it out there. This is embarrassing because I at the time I'm like I'm an amazing hairstylist. This doesn't reflect my work. But then I had to check my ego and say like
Yeah.
no, you got to start with where you're at. That's really like a lot of
Hmm.
entrepreneurs, women, men, whoever, they forget to start with where they're at. They
Yeah.
look at the potential version of who they are, and I'm like, well, I'm not Paul Mitchell yet, so I just need to put this out. So I put my first online content out there, and it's funny because nobody was doing hair extensions like this. Now, like when they're like, oh, I have the beaded kind, I have the sewn in, I have the hand tied ones. I always say
Right.
like the pioneer of this because when I
Wow.
started, it was all the fusion based ones. It was tape ins.
Hmm.
Those were actually looked at as being like super cheap, like because you could do them
Wow.
so quick. Like you could
Yeah.
throw a row in like half an hour versus like when I did those, I don't know if you ever had like the bonded kind. Like my clients would come and we'd have like breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. Like
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
we'd
Yeah.
pop up a movie and it was like an all day experience. So for me, that was one of my biggest mind shifts in the beginning of starting my career is I was like, hey, rows are thought of as cheap. So, but actually, they give people a better result. They're quicker, they're less damaging, they give you more fullness. And I'm like, so if they give clients a better result, then it's more of a
Hmm.
branding issue. And so that's kind
Right.
of when this is a funny story. I started blogging and I had no money and I bought like my first Celine designer bag, and
Yeah.
I'd wear it with like Target and Zara and like trying to be like an
High low.
yeah, like I'm trying to be like an influencer, but it helped kind of elevate my brand. And now there's so many different like beaded systems and like other competitors in the industry, but I feel like I was kind of the foundation of making sort of beaded rows or hand tied hair extensions cool. And now like everybody
Right.
you talk to, they're like, oh, I would say like 90% of girls that wear hair extensions, they have something that originated from natural beaded rows. So
Wow.
there's so many people who are wearing NBR that don't even know they're wearing NBR. They're just like, I have the sewn in kind because there's so many
Oh
out
my gosh.
there. But
That
yeah,
is amazing. I mean, how did you? Okay, so this is also I want to ask you because I have a husband who's also an entrepreneur. He's the president of a massive company. I don't even know, how many employees they have at this point, and they're just very well known, a very large company. How do you guys work together? Because like
I know.
I think for me, it's so funny when my husband will give me feedback on like my business or we'll just talk about it. I feel like I have to be in the right spot and ready to receive. But I want to know, like, how do you guys work together? What does that dynamic look like?
Yeah, we don't anymore. If I'm being really honest, I have a really hard time working with him. When my brand started to take off, Garrett was starting to do large events for his company, and I was at the point where I was doing so many small classes, and he's like, you need to think bigger, you need to do big events." And I was like,
Mm,
"That's overwhelming. Like, I don't want to do it." And he's like, "Okay." So he stepped in with like his teams and helped me start doing big hair events. And that's actually when the brand started to take off, because we went from doing like 20-person classes to 300 to 500 artist events. So,
wow.
and we were doing them like probably like 2, 3 times a year. So that's kind of how I got ahead of the industry once again, because as all these competitors are picking up, like, what do? You got to squash them.
Right.
You got to squash them. So
Right.
he jumps in, and I kind of like let go of the reins. I was just like, fine, like, you do it, because we were constantly like, I'm like, I mean, his brand is like Wake Up Warrior, very masculine, and I'm in the beauty industry.
Right.
Like, so anyways, we don't work well together, but it's funny. I kind of like gave too much control to him, and I'm like reading some of my marketing funnels, and it's like, they're starting to sound like very masculine.
Masculine.
They're like, "This is not your grandma's event." I'm like, why are we threatening hairstylists? Pretty hair. And so it
I love
became a
it.
balance of me like, okay, I can't like hand it completely off to him.
Yes,
So then
yes.
I kind of came in, but he didn't like it. So then I took over completely.
Mhm.
We still struggle with it. Like, I can't, like, if I'm being totally transparent, we decided it's probably better for our marriage to not work together. But
Well,
I do still ask him for advice, and we're kind of in a new season right now where we don't work together, but we share teams. So
yeah.
if I have a question and I don't go to Garrett because I know I'm going to be offended for some reason, however he answers, if
Yeah.
bugged at his tone,
Yes,
go to
yes.
somebody else and they can answer the same question in the same tone, but I'm not offended because it's not my husband.
Exactly. It's so funny because Jared will be like, I'll go to him and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like somebody recommended this. And he's like, Sandy, I told you this like 6 months ago. And I'm like, it just lands differently
Yeah,
when it's someone else.
yeah. Garrett did the same thing. He's like, who gave you that idea? I'm like, Jeff did. He goes, no, I told you this 5 months ago. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't hear that at all.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So it's so interesting because I feel like there's some couples and they do work together and they found a way to make that work for them. But it's just like, I mean, I think it's back against what we're saying about like the home and, like finding those ebbs and flows. It's really just, man, I really give it up to the couples that work together because you have home life and then you have work life and then trying to like almost wear different hats. It's
Right.
really hard to be able to like take one off and put the other one on and kind of switch from one to the other.
Well, you know why Garrett and I couldn't work together? I mean, like, now we know our roles inside the house. So we're actually like in a really good
Yeah.
space right now. And I think that's so important for people to understand if you're in a relationship, is just understand the role. Like, just
Right.
hide the roles and conquer. So when we were trying to like work on the business together, it was like, for me, I would come home and I couldn't snap out of like business mode. And so it
Mm-hmm.
felt like we were like almost like both bros. Like, we were both like
Yeah.
not
Yes.
competing, but it was like I couldn't like see my husband. I just couldn't take that lens off, you know?
Right. Two like masculine energies.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's like, when you're an entrepreneur, it's hard to turn it off. And
Mm-hmm.
so like, say we'd be at dinner and I'm like, okay, I want to turn it off, but like, then I'm like, there's this weird silence. What are we going to talk about? You know?
Right.
So it's just like, for me, I felt like I was less feminine when we were trying to
Yeah.
put the business together, versus now I can be in my business the way I want to be in it. He can be in his business. And then we can come to dinner and date night. And it's like, I'm going to share my wins. I'm not like,
Right.
hey, what do you think about this, this, and this? It's more of like, oh, well, let me share something exciting that happened inside of work. So now we're in this place where we can kind of support each other in
Mm-hmm.
our ideas. And then now, like I said, like, I've just come to the point where, like, if I have a question, I will maybe run it by Garrett, but really
Mm-hmm.
I have to go to a team member. Like,
Yeah.
that just works for us.
So I want to actually ask you, what does date night look like for you guys? Because I know for Jared and I, like to your point of, it's so hard when you have two masculine energies together and date night's supposed to be like fun and sexy. But at some point, like I feel like for me at least, I have the responsibility as the woman to like me take that off, transition into my feminine energy where it's like fun and sexy and flowing. But like we also have to get to a point in date night where we're like, okay, enough work talk or business talk and like kids talk. Like, what are we excited for together? Or like, what are we planning or looking forward to? So, like, how do you guys do that?
So date nights usually for us, we'll do just like a lot of casual, like weeknights. I would say it's just like dinner, just getting away
Mhm.
from the kids, letting the nanny put them to bed. We're not even out that late. We're out till like 8:30. Like we come
Yeah,
home, our
that's us too.
kids to bed, but it's like having like just conversations of like catching up. And
Yeah.
I always tell them, like, if we're having some margaritas or cocktails, I'm like, we like, if I feel a conversation even like getting heated, I'm like, I'm enjoying my margarita, we're putting a pin on that. So
Right.
it's just like having conversations is right now in the phase of life that I'm at. Is date nights is just reconnecting. But we
Yeah.
also love like day dates.
Mm.
I love having fun. So I
Yes.
love, like, we'll do golfing, we'll do top golf, we'll go to lunch, we'll do like an activity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like date dinner nights are like dinner and go to bed, sadly.
Right. Right.
So I feel like lately on Saturdays we'll do like a half an afternoon or something where we'll
Oh,
just do
that's
an
nice.
activity and lunch and like just have fun. Like I think
Yeah.
when you're married, you have to have fun time. Like that to
Right.
me,
Yes.
if you're just doing the dinner date nights, you're gonna get stuck in two conversations, work or kids. So
Right.
you have to step outside of that and be like, what's something we could do together? Like maybe we're gonna go to the beach without kids. Maybe we're gonna go do
Hmm.
a sport or an activity. But it just makes it where it's like almost like you're dating again. Like you're just
Yep.
having fun together.
Yeah, we just went. So Jared and I just got back from Vegas. We saw the Backstreet Boys, and he's like, "Sandy, he goes, I want Vegas Sandy like every day. Like, like there was no kids. I like transported back to like 2000s. I told him I was like, it was so fun. And
Yeah.
every time we do these, I mean, not like we're gonna go to Vegas every week, but it was just so out of our element that we were
Right.
like, every time we do it, we're like, we have to do more of this.
I think if you have toddlers, I think it's so important to do overnight getaways. Like even if
Hmm.
it's a little staycation, because I think
Totally.
for women, we cannot relax and unplug unless we're away. And
Yeah.
so that was like something I realized like early on, even when we didn't have like a ton of money, I was like, hey, I know that if we have time away from the kids, like when we used to live in California, we do like Cabo trips all the time because it was like an hour
Yeah.
and that's when Garrett realized, because at first Garrett's like, oh, we can't afford to travel and this and that, because back then we didn't have a lot of money. And then he took me to Cabo for the first time, and he's like, I can't afford not to travel. I can't afford not to
Right.
take these little vacations. So I think it's so important to like I said, even if you're in a space where you're building your business, but to prioritize like a little getaway if you can, because I do think talk to any man who's married, they will say the same thing. They're like, my wife is like I'm like my Garrett calls me Susanna. I have like 10 different like each vacation I have like a new name. I'm like, where are
Yes.
those super names, babe? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Why am I Candy? I don't want to be Candy.
Yes. Oh my God. I love it. But it really does. It like takes the relationship to a completely different level because you're just out of like feeling like you have to be everybody's everything,
Right.
and we also like we'll do a date night just like you mentioned. We'll go to the beach and we'll just go for a walk, just the two of us. And Jared always used to say to me, Sandy, like I hate that like when we go out for date night, it has to be this like whole big production, like hair and makeup and all these things. And I'm like, well, I can also throw a hat on, but also I'm not going to go out to like a nice dinner with a hat.
Yeah.
So let's mix in, going golfing or going to the restaurant or going for the walk on the beach. Like
Right.
different things. So it also, for me, feeling like one extra thing to do, it's nice sometimes to
Mhm.
not have to feel like, oh my gosh, now I have to get ready and that's going to take however much time. But it also feels nice to be able to just like get dressed up and feel sexy and have time just for you
Yeah.
until you have that time together.
I would say like last night, we not last night, 2 nights ago, we went to dinner and I come rolling in my Lululemon because that's my uniform at home is
Yep.
Lululemon. And he comes in, his uniform is like black warrior t-shirt, black pants. And we both he goes, are you going to change? I go, are you going to change? And it's like a Tuesday. And I was like, I'm
Right.
going to change. Cause you feel better. Like if you actually like get out of, cause I was in my mom attire.
Right.
So I'm like, I could go to dinner in mom attire, but it's a different vibe. So even though I didn't like, get ready, sometimes like
Mhm.
throwing on a cute dress for me or a cute outfit, it
Right.
makes it feel more like flirty.
Yes.
So I always suggest to women, I'm like, like that'll help your date nights if you're like, oh, like it's still casual, but
Yep.
I felt cute. And then I love the day dates because like that's when I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't have to get ready. I throw on a ball cap because I know we're hitting up Top Golf or whatever,
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, I want to ask you about something that I know all the girlies love on the show, and that is morning routines.
Mm.
And do you have a set morning routine that you go to? Like, what does your typical morning look like to set you up for the day?
Yeah, it's funny because I went through a phase like with my first two kids where I was definitely that like 5 a.m. workout person. And then like after my second two kids, I was like, I'm not gonna set my alarm anymore. I'm over that. I don't care. And so my morning routine is I don't set my alarm. I naturally usually wake up about 6:37, which
Okay.
is not super early, but it's not super late. And then I usually let my toddlers wake me up
Okay.
during the school year. I'll wake up a little earlier because I got to get him out
Mhm.
to school, and that kind of thing.
Yep.
But usually, my routine in the morning is get up, get the kids ready. Either I take them to work or my husband takes them to work. We've had help in the past do it, but both me and my husband really like doing it. It's like
Yeah.
time with our kids. So as soon as I get the kids off, if I have time, I will like go in to check my emails and do like a
Mhm.
follow up thing. But I have to be careful with that because I'll get sucked down the rabbit hole, and then I'm like, I
Right.
just bought three pairs of shoes, and like, oh my god, there was a sale at Aloe, and then I'm like, I just spent an hour doing nothing productive. So I have to be
Yeah.
very careful about my scroll time. But I usually will do my scroll time when I'm drinking a little bit of caffeine and waking up for the day or whatever. Then
Okay.
I work out 5 days a week. I love working out. I work with a personal trainer. So I
Nice.
usually will train. If I don't train with my personal trainer, one of the things I do probably like even when I train with a personal trainer, this is like me time is I love listening to either music or a podcast or a book, and I do a 20-minute loop probably 4 to 5 days a week. Even on the days that
Okay.
I work with my trainer, that's just like me time. It's like I either
Nice.
learning something or if you wake up and you're like, I don't want to work out, I feel like shit. That's when I usually am like, nope, you're doing this anyways.
Yeah.
I listen to like fun music. I'm a big fan of consistency to set
Mhm.
your day up for success. I know a lot of like artist personalities will be like, oh, I just don't feel like it today. The content's not flowing. And I'm like, some days you're going to hit a home run and some days you're not. And I think there's
Yeah.
so much to be said in a morning routine and consistency to set up your day.
Mhm.
So for
Yes.
me, I would say like 3 to 4 mornings out of the week, I don't want to go work out. I'm like
Right.
pissed off for no reason. I'm on my period, something. I don't know. I'm just mad.
Right. Right.
Just wake up and people think I just wake up like they imagine like a morning routine, like take off the beauty mask and I'm super happy. I'm like, no, anytime I'm like freaking pissed. But I know that if I like do my routine, I do my workout, I get my me time in, then all of a
Mhm.
sudden by like 10, I'm like, my Garrett makes fun of me. He's like, oh, you're human. It's good to see
Yeah.
you.
You're like, I actually had time for me.
Yeah, so I think the morning routine's very, very important. And like I
Yeah.
said, when I had seasons where I had to be to the salon earlier, or I had, if I have an event, I'll get my morning routine and I just wake up a little bit earlier.
Yeah. 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 I think I'm totally in agreement with you that for me, it's so much more about the discipline than
Mhm.
it ever is motivation. Because I mean, it's like how many of us are really motivated at 5:30, 6, 7, whatever time you get up to get up and go to the gym. I feel like I've built the consistency now over time, regardless. And even if I'm not feeling good, like you said, if I'm on my period or low energy or whatever, just doing something
Right.
to get me up and moving and going, because I know that that's going to set the tone for my day. So I
Mhm.
love that you're doing something just to like fuel into you first.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like I said, like when I don't do it, I almost like feel like I move slower throughout the day. I do allow
Right.
myself like Saturdays and Sundays. It's funny when you get used to like working out and having your routine, you almost feel
Yep.
guilty for not doing it. So
Right.
that was one thing I kind of had to work on with me because like on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm like, I don't need to work out 7 days a week. And
Mhm.
I don't need to, for me, I'm like, if I don't get my routine in, I can't also let that dictate my day. I can't be a
Right.
nag to Garrett or a shitty mom because I didn't get my routine in. I have to be like, hey, it's Saturday, I slept in a little bit, like
Yeah.
I'm not doing my routine. Like that's okay because then I know on Monday I'm like fired up to like start the
Mhm.
routine again. So I think it's that balance of like don't let your routine hold you hostage, but also stay consistent to the routine.
Right. Right. That's so good. Well, I want to pivot and I want to talk about your upcoming book,
Okay.
Big Money Stylist, which I think this is so amazing because just going back to what you said in the beginning of the interview, you were a wife, a mom who was working all of these hours, felt like you had no boundaries. And then when you kind of had that breakdown moment, that's when the biggest transformation happened. So
Mm.
I would love for you to share with us what Big Money Stylist is and what we can expect from your new book.
So I'm actually working on two books, but the Big Money Stylist book should be out in like the next couple weeks. We're just finishing some sales funnels and things like that for it.
Amazing.
My original podcast was called The Big Money Stylist, and I literally just would talk about like salon culture, like real stuff that would
Mhm.
happen in the industry, and that's actually built like it built a lot of organic leads for me, and so it was just like again like talking about principles for the artist and talking about mindset. And so I always wanted to write like a quick read. For it doesn't have to be for a hairstylist, it could honestly be anybody in the
Mhm.
beauty industry. But just it's really like a mind shift book for the artist, but also talking about tactical principles to apply to your business. Because
Mhm.
I one of the biggest problems with artists is they go to hair school, we're taught nothing about owning a business or being an entrepreneur.
Right.
We're
Yep.
literally just taught the art of things. And not only that, like hairstylists are kind of looked down upon. Like you can only
Mm.
charge so much if you live in this town, like all these limiting beliefs. Like
Mhm.
I tell people all the time, I started my brand in a tiny town next to literally like a cow pasture. And I got clients to fly into me and drive past this
Wow.
cow pasture, lose service, and sit in my chair. Talk about like, you've got to have a
Wow.
real like mind shift. And so I share a little bit of my story, but it's kind of like mindset coaching mixed with like tactical principles that artists can apply. And it doesn't matter if you, I always say, it doesn't matter if you live in a big city or a small town, you can still have
Mhm.
success with whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
That's my book that's coming out next month. And then I have another one that's going to be finished the end of this year. And it's called God is My Ghostwriter. It's more
Oh,
like a memoir. And I'm more excited about this one, actually, even though my one's coming out, because I've been working on it all year. And
wow.
it's talking about, like, you know, how you were saying in the beginning, like, how did you make this decision? I think that
Yeah.
every shift that I have made in my life, or like aha or pivot, is literally like God speaking through me.
Yep.
And so I wrote this other book called God is My Ghostwriter, talking about how I shifted stories in my mindset to get to where I am today as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, and all those things. So that one's not, I'm like totally promoting it early, but that one's not going to be done until the end of this year, and it'll go out in January. But Big Money Stylist is a quick, easy read. We're going to have it available to download. We'll have a physical copy, and I recorded the audio book, which whoo, that is harder than you would think. But we will.
I know. People keep asking me to do mine in audio. I'm like, oh, I need to get it done.
Yeah, just do it. There's a studio close to us that I went.
Oh,
They were phenomenal. They made it super easy. Like the guy was like coaching me. He's like, "Hey, slow down, do this." So
oh, that's
it's not
awesome.
as scary as you would think. But I listen to most of the books I listen to. I listen in
Yep.
audio.
Yep.
So and I listen like 3 times speed while I'm doing my morning jog or whatever. So you should
Yes.
go record an audio. It sucks, but it'll be worth it.
Yes. Okay. So, two more questions. One, I want to know because I know all the women are listening and hearing you say you're coming out with two books. Also, why, while you're in mom mode and building up like, how are you writing two books while everything else is going on top of it? Because I know that the women are thinking this, and so I'm going to ask you.
Okay, so well, if I'm being transparent, the one book I wrote with a ghostwriter. So
Okay.
I was so intimidated to write a book, and for the last 2 years, God kept telling me like write a book, and I'm like, I'm not a writer. I told that was like a story, and then a friend of mine was like, you know, you can hire a ghostwriter, and I was like, what? What's a ghostwriter? So
Right.
it's time consuming, but not as I had made up a story in my mind that, oh my gosh, I
Hmm.
already have too much on my plate. And for any moms that are listening to this, we tell ourselves we limit what we can do because we make up stories of how much work it's going to be. And when you actually entertain it as a possibility, you're like, oh my God, figuring out that wasn't as scary as I thought it would be.
Right.
Also,
Absolutely.
ChatGPT, like if ChatGPT is not your
Hmm.
best friend, like you could literally replace like 10 employees with ChatGPT.
Totally.
So
Totally.
like my short read, I'm not gonna lie, like I took a bunch of like online curriculum,
Yeah.
rewrote it, put it in Chat GPT, like so it's kind of I use help. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
again, like if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, you have so much on your plate, I would maybe consider like, what's something that you have told yourself, oh, I can't do that, whether it's a
Mm,
fitness goal, whether it's maybe you want to tell your story or share your story, what's holding you back from doing that? So it's
yes.
not, it's like I said, it sounds like I'm doing a lot, which I am, but it's doable.
Yeah.
Doable. It's like creating prior. I always say prioritize what you need to get done. We do this with my teams all the time. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
what's the hot item? What are we selling next? Cool. That funnel needs
Absolutely.
to be done first. Okay. What's next on the calendar? Okay. So I think it's important if you have a busy schedule, as you know, is
Mm-hmm.
don't let it overwhelm you. Plan it.
Right.
It's all about
Absolutely.
planning it. If you just step outside for a second and you like plan it out, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's actually not that overwhelming. It might take 6 months, but otherwise, what are the costs of not doing it? 6 months, a
Right.
year, 2 years, 3 years goes by. I see so many people that are like, they have an idea or a concept and they let like the literally like 5 years later, they're like, you
Mhm.
could have like launched that and like
Right.
and they don't, and it's because we stay in this mindset of like it's too overwhelming, I'm not going to do it, or fear of failure.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, it's so true. I mean, I hear from not just my clients, but from women all the time that are saying, "How do you do this?" or "I couldn't do this." I'm like, "No, but you can. You
Yeah.
can. You have to stop telling yourself that you can't. That's the first step."
Mm-hmm. Entertain, instead of
Absolutely.
saying can't, it's like reverse engineer, like
Yeah.
what would I have to do? Like a lot of people
Yes.
or literally like just entertain it.
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. Okay, so ladies, start asking yourself what did you say? Start asking yourself, "Why can't I do it?"
Yeah, why can't I do it? And then entertain like what's the first step. The
What's the
other
first
biggest
step?
thing I always tell like anyone I'm coaching is I was like, don't get 10 steps ahead of yourself. So I'm in the salon
Mhm.
culture, in the salon space, and somebody will come up to me and be like, okay, so I'm thinking about buying a salon. And I'm like, hold up. Do you have an assistant? No. Okay. I love that you want to be a salon owner. Is your
Right.
business completely full? No. Great. We're not going to worry about buying a salon right now. We're not even going to think that far ahead. We're literally going to think, what is the next thing you need to do? Right?
Right.
Where are
Yes.
you at right now? And then it's like I said, it's consistency and little baby steps every single day that you'll be like, wow, when you start to see the progression, that's when it's like addicting, right? When you
Yes.
compete, whether it's like in your physicality or your competitions or whatever you're
Yeah.
doing, transformation is addicting. So when you
Yeah.
see progress, you see transformation, and this picks up the momentum.
Yes. So, so good. Okay, final question. What does slay your day mean to you?
So I think we were talking about this on my podcast with you
Yep.
too. It's like I just feel like it's like one of those days where you're like, I kind of won in like a lot of different areas,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't necessarily, and slay your day it could mean like maybe you had a phenomenal event and you like
Mm-hmm.
impacted so many people. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, I spent 20 minutes with the kids, 20 minutes with my husband, 20 minutes on me. It's not like it's not distributing your time evenly, but it
Yep.
could also be too. Like there's days where I'm like, I was like super mom. I like went on a date night. I crushed it in work. So there's days where slay your day is kind of like balancing a little bit of everything and you feel like really fulfilled. But then, like,
Mm-hmm.
slay your day could also be like, you're like, I just crushed my event. And I
Yes.
wasn't with my kids at all. But guess what? Like, that's okay. I'm going to be
Yep.
with them tomorrow or whatever. So, like, slay your day is when you're feeling in your most powerful self. Slay
Yes.
your day is when you could run an event or you could have a crazy day and you come home and you're like, I'm invigorated, right?
Yep.
And that's when I believe that you're aligned with your purpose. So slay your day for me would be you're living a purpose driven life. You're in your
Mm-hmm.
lane and you're not going to be in your lane every day. But when you learn how to slay your day, you're going to find that you're more consistently in your lane than not in your lane. So that to me is what
Amazing.
slay your day means is finding your passion, your purpose, and what you're supposed to be aligned with in this life.
I love that. Danielle, where can everybody find you and connect with you?
Ooh, okay. So if you want my hair page, it's just Natural Beta Row extensions. I have artists all across the country. Just look for somebody who does Natural Beta Row extensions. I have a locator map there if you're interested. I have a hairline called Isla. It's just Isla hand tied hair. You can find that on Instagram or Google it. That's only available for licensed artists, but almost my artists use that hair. And then if you want to just see everything that I'm up to, I do podcasting, I love fashion, I love fitness, I love hair, I love beauty, I love all those things. Just to go to daniellekWhite.com or Danielle K White on Instagram. So
amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us. Ladies, make sure you go check out Danielle, her podcast, all of the things she has coming up. And as always, make sure you go out and slay your day.
love it.